For some 555, €5, €5, pot limit Omaha with 5 cards. Everyone is here on the absolute spicks in play. Karen with 750. The bottom 5 guys. Nick. So Romeo limping in the small blind on the button straddle. I like it with the aces. Looking to go for a limp pot. Just seeing what happens with the action. Stephen checking back 4 clubs on the button. It's a good, wise decision. King 9, Queen. Let's have a look. Karen has flopped herself a Jack High flush draw with a gut shot. It's a swing and a miss for Romeo.
Check.
And Stephen's going to check back as well. 6 on the turn. Doesn't change an awful lot. Brings in a couple of backdoor straight draws as well. But it's going to go check as well. And a 7 on the river gives Karen the check mark, I believe, with the Jack High flush. Only a €45 pot. Doesn't look like anyone wants to have a stab at it either.
20.
But Romeo is going to take a punt at it. And good luck getting Karen to fold just for the 1 bet. XZRE Gaming. George, what's your opinion on the caps? What make poker great again? I think they're a bit tongue-in-cheek, you know, with the whole Donald Trump thing, obviously. Bit of a controversial subject, but
4 players.
looks like Romeo's just flattered the cutoff as well with aces. With 3 spades in his hand, bad side cards, fair enough, and it might pay off for him here as he's going to have a set over set situation and he's going to be completely under-repped. Starts it off with the check. Looks like Alexander's somehow checked as well. And Jimmy's in there with the gut shots and Queen High flush draw. Looks like he wants to start the betting as well. Does have backdoor diamonds to boot. Alexander in seat 4 has potted it. And now that leaves Romeo behind with 1.4k, having slow played his hand pre-flop with the current nuts. So he's going to be loving this action. And you know what, if he repots, he might be able to get Jimmy to fold, which would be incredible for him because he'd isolate the combo draw out of the pot, as Jimmy will be a little bit concerned that he might be up against the nut flush or a better draw. With nut flush draw or with better side cards. And yeah, this could work perfectly for Romeo. He's able to maybe squeeze Jimmy out, yeah, which he does fold, and Alexander is left essentially drawing dead with a hand that he's yeah, got completely crushed. What Alexander's thinking here is that I have nothing with my jacks, which is such a tough spot. Thinking through the hand pre-flop, thinking why would he only limp from the cutoff if he does have the aces? And he finds the fold, and I think it's a very disciplined laydown there to get away from it. Understanding that the defends with the King, Queen, Jack 10, it all seems pretty standard stuff so far. Karen swapped herself a gut shot with the ace 2, an overpair, backdoor spades with front door clubs.
55.
But it's in pretty rough shape against Alexander, who's got himself 2 pair. And lots of backdoor stuff going on as well.
Call.
Looks like Romeo's come along for the ride with bottom 2 pair. And not much additional equities. Doesn't have a backdoor flush draw. I think this call is a little bit on the looser side. Not really any great turns from Romeo's hand.
Yes, spot.
Alexander with the top two there. Looks like he has
240. Well, sorry.
Is that a pot?
Yeah, 450. 400. Yeah, pot is 200. Here, but pot. Pot is 200. 235. 35. Because he don't.
Yeah, he's spotted it to 235, which puts Karen in a bit of a spot. She doesn't have the nut flush draw, but she does have some decent equity in her hand, and I think
Yeah,
she's
sorry. 300.
probably going to be going with it.
Yeah,
Backdoor spades as well. Gut shot. Yeah, she's going to call.
Yeah. 300. Yeah. Yeah.
She makes the call with 337 behind, which I'm not sure I'm a massive fan of because she does have decent equity versus Alexander's range.
And heads up.
And if she ever gets forced out of the equity on the turn with 337 behind, it's a bit of a disaster for her. However,
Check.
Alexander turns the boat with Queen 5, and that is going to lock it up, as I believe there are no more kings available in the deck. It would certainly be a nice card to check back. Yeah, I like this, to try and get the club there and eke some value that way. It does come the 9, so Karen only having kings and 5s here, and looks like she's moved all in. Wow. Been snapped off. Not sure if she was bluffing or value betting there. Seven, 7, 3, and Romeo with the 4 diamonds in his hand, flopping the nut boat.
Okay, check.
George, you slept yet? I got about 4 hours last night, Jack. How have you been getting on?
One bet 100.
Feel pretty ropey, it has to be said. So Rock leading out for 100, and that's going to be the absolute gin for Romeo, who's got a load of overcards to boot as well with his 7. Can get a bit dicey on a fair few turn cards. So just electing to call, play his hand under repped. Maybe try to induce a couple more leads from Rock. Karen coming along with the nut flush draw and just a naked overpair. It's definitely on the more optimistic side of the equation. No idea what Rock's got. I'm hoping a 7, but possibly 4, 5, 6 or something. Romeo improving his boat to 7s full of queens. Four, 5, 6, queen would be an absolute touch for Rock, wouldn't it? But wow, Karen's still coming along. And drawing completely dead to Romeo, sorry, bar the 10. And amazingly somehow has 15%. Ace on the river, Romeo with the Queen 7 now. And what is Karen up to here? Goes for the check, and Romeo deciding whether to shove or not. think it is a clear shove. He does. Only 400 or 40 effective or so into 1k. And Karen's got herself into a bit of a pickle here, calling extremely light on the flop and the turn. No 7 in her hand. Mulling it over still. You've got to let it go on the flop, Karen, let alone the river. Hopefully she doesn't completely pay him off. And does get out the way eventually. Rock looks like he was in an interested 5-3 for Romeo. And that's going to be top 2 for Karen with a gut shot straight flush draw and a wrap. And you know, Romeo's in there with top and bottom as well, so he may actually elect to stack off here. Although he doesn't have any additional equity that I can see. 6 on the turn for Karen, and apparently that's the check mark. Yep. River's the flush as well. Pulls it.
4 check. 5 check. 6 check, 8 check.
Sorry about that, guys. Just grabbing some water. Jack saying, do you know how to play Pokio from the UK? Can you get a guest account or something? I don't think there's a way around it unless you're a bit sneaky with a VPN or something like that. It would be rather beneficial to play those games, I'm sure, but I just don't think that there is a way around it unless you are using some sneaky kind of software. So, Rock leading out on that front. Karen with top pair and backdoor galore, and does turn one of them. Now 2 pair with Jack 10 for the gut shot. Looks like she's continuing to check. And Rock bets 25, just trying to thin out the field a little bit. Maybe not really too sure why. And Karen and Romeo are going to chop that one up.
Six check. Not betting much. 1 fold.
This is only 4%, incredibly. And apparently Karen is the big favourite here. I mean, they must know the flops before they're coming, don't they, with these equities. They are a little bit awry. Sergey flopping the gut shot to the nuts with the nut flush draw. And Karen's going to try and thin the field out. Try and get some naked draws to fold, which is good for her. Build a pot as well with top set blocker with 8s. Romeo comes along for the ride with the queen high flush draw, and that's a great turn card for Sergey, who now improves to the nuts. Would have liked to have seen a turn lead here. You can definitely get called by sets, 2 pairs and such like. But he does get a bite out of Romeo, who's now with the 2 aces trying to represent ace 10, I guess, with the relevant blockers to the nuts. So Sergey pumping it up to 400. And I think Romeo kind of understands that the game's up. Lets it go, and Sergey with the nuts. And
Looking at a bump pot, maybe there was a dealer change. Who doesn't love a bump pot? We don't know what Karen has, but both Sergey and Alexander have fours in their hand. Nobody with the pocket jacks. In fact, not too many pocket pairs out there at all. So we'll pay more attention to these two players. Alexander liking the fact that he has a 4 in his hand. And let's see what they're blocking of each other. Alexander and Sergey have 3/8 between them. So we're looking at a 10, 5, or 3 for Sergey to improve. Otherwise, Alexander will be ahead. And Alexander leading out. And I guess we won't see that happen because Sergey just folding the 4 that he has in his hand. It was a big enough bet. He doesn't want to get involved here. Romeo will likely toss this away even though he has some outs and Jimmy making the fold. So Alexander...
not sure about that one. 5-5-9, it comes with 2 hearts on the flop. It's a decent flop obviously for Romeo with a 5. Oh, Karen has a full house. Karen has a full house and Romeo's got a 5. King on the turn improves Romeo to 5 full of kings. And it's going to be time for Karen to start to put some money in the pot, and she does. Betting 100. Can't see Nick doing anything. Gets out the way. And Dimitri drawing stone cold dead. But for some reason mulling something over does end up folding. And Romeo goes for the call. It's going to be 270 behind for Karen. And that's going to be going in the middle for sure. All in Ovich. It's going to be a relatively tough spot for Romeo. Who leads for 125. Karen snap puts it all in. And Romeo's going to see the bad news here, as Karen did indeed flop 9s full of 5s. As soon as she didn't get completely snapped off there. Can be a little bit obvious sometimes. So we've got the 5-card bomb pot. And who's got the most equity here? You can see 22% next to Dimitri. Rock's fencing a stab at the pot with 6-5-4-3-2. Does have some nutted outs. Bottom 2 pair as well. Definitely blocking some of the continues, but Romeo comes along there with a pretty similar hand. 3 pair. Ten on the turn improves Sergey to backdoor flush draw with top 2. And I think the game's up from Rock, although he's going to go for it. Definitely not working against Sergey for this street, but we'll see what the river brings. So Sergey won't be folding to the turn bet, that's for sure. Open-ender flush draw on top 2. Got to be calling one. If he saw any of yesterday's streams with Rock involved, he would, could even be jamming for value here. Just taking his time to mull it over, which is a reasonable. Yeah, Rock was the action guy from the short deck stream that I was in. Gives a lot of action, gets a lot back. And 10-8 is going to be good here, unless Rock can find one more barrel, which would definitely work, by the way. No, he just snap checks it back with 2 pair, which unfortunately is never going to win. To the flop, which makes things interesting, especially in 5-card Omaha. Anyone can have anything, and there's no real knowledge of the pre-flop ranges. Does mean that people are pretty honest post-flop. You don't see an awful lot of bluffing. I feel like it's a game that should involve a lot of bluffing, but ends up being quite honest on flops and turns, that's for sure, when it's extremely multi-way. So as you see here, Jimmy has top set, so he's just going to lead out for 200. Sergey calling with the nut flush draw. What else has he got? Bottom 2 pair as well, which are kind of redundant, and actually does have incredibly 0%. Romeo is in there with 10 high flush draw and queen 10 for the open ender. Definitely some equity there. Rock, not too sure what he's got, just 1 pair by the looks of things. And Nick has queen jack 10, so blocks top set, has an open ender, has a good flush draw as well. And possibly might be raising this. Yeah, it looks like he's going to shovel it in. Jimmy has top set. So Nick is looking for not that card. And an ace isn't going to get it done either. I think it looks like Sergey stacked off 2 and won the side pot. So a bit of a disaster there for Nick. With the ace on the river as Sergey improved. Oh, no, sorry. Let's have a look. What did Nick have? He just had queens, but Sergey had bottom 2 on the flop. So was desperately looking for a king or an 8 to scoop a loop. Couldn't find one. 2.5k pot is going to be mostly going in the direction of Jimmy with his top set.